Hey everybody, welcome back to Think Sales with Jeff Gunsberg and myself. Looking forward to talking to Jeff Katkowsky, president of Zolman Restoration. Jeff, always good to connect with you and talk about business. I thought we could get started today talking about, how you have adapted your business with COVID. We're sitting here, it is middle of October, almost November. And many companies have had to adjust and shift. And, I just wanted to kind of kick off there. How have you as a business owner, as a leader, done that with you and your team and your business?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. So COVID has definitely been an unusual event and one that certainly is hard to plan for. So I like to say that in the beginning of it, we used to say that it's one thing to plan for a rainy day. It's another thing to be able to plan for a pandemic. And I don't think most of us were prepared. So having said that, in the industry that we're in, which is insurance restoration, so we're responding to residential and commercial losses that may have been impacted by water, flood, fire, mold, things of that nature. Those things occur regardless of what's happening in the world. And so we were deemed as a first responder, which was a blessing in disguise for us in our business, because it enabled us to more or less generate revenue during months when a lot of companies were unable to do so and really suffered from a financial setback. For us, it was all about communication, communicating very openly and often with our staff, letting them know what was going on, what our plans were, which were constantly shifting literally by the minute, by the day, by the month as new information was released. But I think overall, our team was very blessed in that there were definitely some changes that had to have been made early on back in March, April. And within a few short months, we were essentially back to full capacity and business as usual. So it hasn't been terrible for us in terms of, the COVID impact on our business.
So, like you were saying, this is, when you see something on TV, you see a disaster here, you see flooding, you see fire, you see things like that, especially when this is going on and we're in the middle of this pandemic. It's like, how much more, can somebody take? It's like, you just, your mind immediately goes there. And, I was looking at your website and I thought this was an amazing phrase, and I wanted to have you kind of explain that. But you have an individual that's there, and his job title is Master of Compassion. And I wanted to know, on your side, I think to me it explains a whole lot and is a big piece of this. What does that mean to you guys internally and as an organization?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that every company needs to do in whatever market segment they're in is understand what is their differentiator, what makes them unique, and why should anybody care? And for us, it's there's many companies that do exactly what we do, both locally, nationally, et cetera. So it's not unique what we're doing. What we sell is the who we are. So to us, it's all about how we respond, the compassion that we can bring, the empathy, the understanding of what somebody is going through. So we're really fueled by, we've identified it as our passion, which is just simple, helping others. And really that at the core is what we are all about. And hopefully it is demonstrated by the actions of all of our team members each and every time we're, have the opportunity to respond.
Yeah, it's so important. Just quick comment, like in these times, especially, it's just real important to, have that thought and that feeling. So it's nice to see.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Zolman just was doing work on my house coincidentally last week. And so,
what kind of disaster did you create over there?
There was a faucet that was accidentally left on, and there was just a big flood in my house. And they were unbelievable. The team that came out, and I didn't know you had a master of compassion, but they were the most compassionate people. Answered every question, understood what we needed to know, wanted to know. It was a great experience, and everything was fixed perfectly. So it was great.
I appreciate that, and that's the other piece is it's your experience, not our experience, that we're trying to focus on. So that is something that is front and center at every response, is trying to alleviate your concerns, your challenges, and leaving you with a good experience during a bad event.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit more, Jeff, because I think, when you're a business owner, when you're selling, when you're trying to message your business, grow your business, grow your brand, grow your market share, etc. How do you message and market your differentiators consistently in the marketplace so people know that even before they experience it?
It's a great question. It's certainly a challenging aspect to market. It's hard to market compassion and really convey that feeling of I got your back, we care, I care more than the next individual, etc. So it's a lot of what we really try to do is build relationships where we think we'll get the biggest return on the investment. So whether that be in the insurance adjuster community, so adjusters understand who we are, our makeup, and what drives our company. They become advocates and salespeople for us with their customers that are actually suffering the loss. So hopefully we'll be recommended. And then on the commercial side, it's about going and talking to building owners, property managers, facilities directors. And again, it's all about establishing the relationship. And so I could certainly send an email, or I can send a social media blast, but I can't convey the message as well as if I'm sitting across the table from somebody and they can hopefully feel the genuineness of what we're trying to convey. And then of course people like yourself, John, that we would say, here, call these references that have actually had the opportunity to experience our service and can be spokespeople for us, so to speak.
Right. I had asked the same question to somebody that was in the healthcare space, and I'm just curious in your business. In the beginning, there's so many businesses that as far as sales is concerned, they weren't really actively, when the pandemic hit in March, they weren't actively selling. They were more calling, connecting, and talking to people, and making sure that they're okay, and with sincerity, and just how are you, what's going on, instead of actively like, where's my next deal, where's my next this, So I wonder on your side, based on what you do, did you see a gap? Was there a shift in how you were having folks who do sales in the organization, that their attitude and their approach at that particular time versus now as we're deeper into it?
Yes and no. I think that the big concern that, especially on the commercial side, so I'll say the business sector side of our business, was people wanted to ensure that their environment was safe for their employees.
Right.
And, so in the onset, there was a lot of uncertainty about the germs and how it spread, and you probably maybe know people that had their offices cleaned in a term that's used often is fogged, and made safe for the workers. And so there was a lot of that going on, and again, there were a lot of people that didn't know if they should stay open, if people should work from home, should come into the office every day. So probably March, April, May, there was a really high velocity of consultations and conversations about what to do. It died down a little bit more over the summer as I think more people really became accustomed to their work environment, whether people were there or not. But I think from my vantage point, it's stabilized a lot. I think companies figured it out, and there's not as much of that need going on right now as processes have been put in place.
Yeah. It's interesting. Thanks for that, Jeff. I just want to go back. I have a comment on something, and then I have a question. I interviewed, as you were talking about, it's hard to market compassion. I just wanted to kind of infuse this. I interviewed a guy the other day named Jonathan Silver. He's the CEO and owner of this company called Affinity. And he was telling me that what they do, long story short, doesn't matter. I don't need to go into the details. But the technology before COVID was about to launch it actually coincidentally at Metro Airport, where if the three of us were standing in front of a sign, like a billboard in the airport, we would all see something completely different based on, he wouldn't tell me the technology, but I made an assumption that it was facial recognition and what's on our phone. And so they would be able to market to us specifically based on emotion and all of these other different elements as a way of taking just user experience and artificial intelligence to the next level. And then talking about how when you go into stores, you may see different things in the window standing right next to each other. And so it blew me away. So I said to him, like, what is reality? So I bring that up because it feels like being able to sell and market compassion may be easier over the next decade based on some of this technology. But just zooming into kind of where we are today,
yeah.
I want to talk to you about your people, Jeff, because I did experience your people. Zolman has done work for us in the past, and your people are so well trained. And I think in many companies, they don't invest in their people or the training. And so I don't know what type of training you do, but I know it must be somewhat significant because I know how they showed up at my house. And so what type of training do you infuse, and how often are you training your people, about the business and as well as soft skills?
Yeah, thanks for asking about that. So training is a robust part of not only our company, but our enterprise of companies, which there's 5 operating companies under our umbrella, and we have a full-time training department, so to speak. And that was something that we've invested in greatly over the years, just because we believe so deeply in the fundamental philosophy of training and in getting our message clear to our team members, so they in fact are able to get it clear when they're working with their customers. We do a variety of different types of trainings. The one, that is, matter of fact, we've got scheduled for our team members in a couple of weeks here at our office. We call it the 4 pillars basically it's called our 4 pillars class. So we have core values. We have what we call Rayisms. We have principles of service. And they're all various types of, call it what it is. It's brainwashing, and it's they're euphemisms that we implement. Yeah. So it becomes a language of it in and of its own that is just utilized within the companies. So for example, I have just right to the right of me on my board our principles of service, which is it's just a quick 10 items that are just, regardless of the industry, it's always applicable.
Right.
Be humble. You only get one shot at a first impression. Presentation matters. Follow up and follow through. And then we go in behind each heading and talk deeper about the meaning of that and the impacts that they have. So there's just a lot of continuous information, and I think the whole key is the consistency of the messaging. So if you talk about it once a year, people aren't going to remember. They're going to remember in that couple hour time span right after your meeting. But when the language is just repeatedly discussed, and it's you throw it into an email, and when you're in every conversation something is applicable, we talk about it.
Yeah.
So just a quick comment too. I think it's so important to you mentioned the language, and each company has its own language that they speak, and it's unique to each organization, and it's so important to understand how people receive information and how you lay it out and how they what they do with it. So I think that's great and good to understand. You mentioned off the heels of your training, and you mentioned consistency, which I think is one of the John and I talk about this all the time. I mean, it sounds like you're pounding whatever message it is into the people over and over and over and over again. How often, with your, with the sales team, how often are you doing that and training and kind of going over those, specific uniques that you have in your company that should be, emphasized?
Yeah, I would say, believe it or not, I would say probably not often enough. But
good answer, John.
Yeah, but we have regular pulse meetings with our various teams, generally on a weekly basis, and every one of those meeting pulses has a segment, not necessarily specific to training, but where examples are brought up, or one of our Rayisms or multiple Rayisms, principles of service, core values are discussed, and examples are shared. And that is something that happens on a regular basis, repeatedly. So I just think that we have a saying that somebody doesn't hear something the first time until they've heard it at least 7 times. And in some people, it's not 7 times, it's 700 times. And, you got to just keep repeating the message over and over and over again. And we say, scream it from the rooftops, and hopefully it'll penetrate. And for each of us, we've all, I know John's, past career as well. And depending on how many people are in your work environment, it's amazing. I'm always amazed at large companies that have great culture and have, offices around the world. And no matter where you are, you get the same feel. And I think that's just phenomenal. I just was listening to a interview recently with Arthur Blank, one of the founders of Home Depot, and he talked about how when they had nothing, they recognized that messaging and training was just the only way that company was going to scale. And it's an amazing story, and I firmly believe in it.
I couldn't agree with that. I couldn't agree with that more. I think it is so critical, and I'm so glad you're bringing a lot of this up, Jeff, because I think so many companies, I would venture to say probably 80+% of companies do not invest enough training in their people consistently. They'll have them, come in and they, do a keynote. Someone will come and do a keynote, and then there's nobody to follow up on it. There's no constant training of the nuances. There's no constant internal messaging discussion. You need to create your own world of kind of speak, because it makes it fun, and people want to, it makes it fun. And who's Ray, by the way? I was
going to ask.
Would it be like a Jeffism or a Zolmanism or where is, I need to interview Ray. Like, where is Ray?
Yeah, so it's an
interesting. He's in his pocket.
Yeah, Ray. It's a fun story. So, one of our core values is to pursue excellence by constantly raising the bar. And so what happened was we've always been very festive with the holidays, and Halloween. One year, one of our team members came dressed up as he did a whole costume based on Ray Z Bar. And so all of a sudden we're like, oh, Ray, they're perfect. He'll be
Right.
this,
Right.
guy so then we went and we hired a cartoonist who created a caricature of a guy named Ray. And now we have in all of our, offices,
I love it.
Ray is plastered everywhere. And so all the Ray-isms are really isms that Ray would say. And then, emails will come out from our, either from training or our HR department, and the email will come from Ray, and they're saying, share core value stories, share this. So we put together, I don't have one handy, but we put together a book twice a year that is of all of our Rayism stories from all of our companies, giving examples and testimonials from team members. And so it's really taken on a life of its own. So
that's awesome. I'm glad I asked. Right, he's like a silent partner.
Yeah, exactly.
Usually, like if you have to let somebody go, you can say, "Listen, I really like you, but Ray."
Yeah.
Is Ray.
Remember in the Flintstones, Gazoo used to sit.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So it's like Ray's always on your shoulder, and he's like your conscience, and he's like.
Great. I love that. All right, Jeff, you ready for a quick speed round?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
I'm ready too.
You ready, Jeff? All right.
You said Jeff.
Jeff, you ready? Favorite book and why?
Favorite book and why? I'm reading right now a great book by Ryan Hawk called Welcome to Management. He really just bridges the gap between, people will get promoted all the time to their highest level of incompetency, and they have no one teaches them.
Yeah.
And so this book really breaks it down, and I'm really enjoying it.
That's great.
What's your favorite?
Goes back to the training we talked about, right?
Absolutely.
People get hired. I see it all the time in companies. They get hired as a manager, and then they're like, "All right, go manage people."
Yeah.
And the manager said, "I don't even like people." Right?
Exactly. Happens all the time.
Right. Yeah.
What's the top Rayism in the company for you?
Top Rayism in the company. Don't hide behind email.
That's a good one.
I like that one. For salespeople, that's huge.
That's a great one. Kat, best piece of advice you ever got?
Rome wasn't built in a day.
I used that the other day, by the way.
Did you?
I told someone on my podcast, they were talking about that. I said, my buddy who works with Saxon Construction had a sign in Detroit that said, if Rome was built in a day, we would have used that, group or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Early on in my career, I wanted to go fast, and my partner Todd taught me a long time ago. I don't know that he used that exact expression, but that was the gist, was just be patient. It'll come. And he's right. So I've always appreciated that.
Yeah.
We've had a fun answer on this one before. Favorite movie?
Oh, God. I mean, favorite movie... I would say A Few Good Men.
Good one.
All right.
And we use.
Is someone going to do You Can't Handle the Truth?
We use that line a lot.
Did you order the code red?
Did you? Do I need to read the notes back here?
That's great. I love that.
Great.
All right. Last question, Kat. A lot of young adults are graduating college right now. Whether they're getting jobs, starting their own businesses. One piece of advice for them:
find something you love to do. I wish I could redo my 20s. I would do it totally different. But I hate to say it, but I tell my kids all the time: really, what goes on in your 20s is irrelevant. Go find something you love to do. Be passionate about it, and just have fun, because when you have the rest of your life ahead of you, it should be, I always say you should have to say, I get to versus I have to. I get to go to work tomorrow versus I have to go to work tomorrow. And when you find that, you've won.
That's awesome. Kat, tell everybody, those are great words, great advice. Tell everybody who your ideal client is and how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, our ideal client is a sophisticated insured that appreciates the value that we'll bring to the table, and that our approach is about the who and how we're going to handle the situation, not about the what. Anybody can do the what. How do you get a hold of us? Jeff at Zolman Restoration.com. www.zolmanrestoration.com is our website, and our phone number 248-255-4130.
All right.
Amazing.
Kat, I appreciate you being on the show today. I appreciate you talking about the importance of effective communication, talking about the importance of training and investing not only in your people, but a whole department that helps train people, how you've adapted to the market, and a special shout out and thanks to Ray.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Jeff, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, no, Jeff, thanks so much for being on the show, and I think you certainly have spoken from experience, and I think everybody in the audience, certainly could learn some great things from you and potentially Ray as well. So
yeah,
thanks
all
for
right.
being here.
Raise the bar, love it.
Ray,
Kat, guns, thanks guys, thanks everybody.
So have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too.